Welcome to the Movement for Beginners podcast presented by YouthLed. I'm your host, Joel Norton. Our objective here is to simplify the movement journey for beginners, from getting started to fulfilling your goals and remaining consistent over time. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, or at youthledcoaching.com. If you're a first-time listener, please refer back to our teaser episode so you can get a better understanding of the purpose of not just this podcast, but YouthLed and myself. Without any further ado, let's dive into today's episode. Here we go for episode number 2 of the Movement for Beginners podcast presented by YouthLed. We are continuing our season theme of barriers to movement or physical wellbeing based interventions today. And we're going to tackle socioeconomic factors, which is pretty much just the characteristics of a person's social and economic background. We're going to look at 5 factors of this barrier, which is going to be education, income, employment, environment, and social support. And we're actually going to start, last episode we finished with our takeaway. We're going to start with our takeaway today, which is pretty much just a broad takeaway to help remove the barriers surrounding this factor, is to be aware of the options you have and the opportunities you can create. Now, you're probably going to hear that and say, Joel, that's not a tangible takeaway. What am I meant to do with that? And this is an important time to remind you that this medium is a general sharing of information as opposed to getting specific information regarding your situation. So what can you do with that? Well, you can increase or alter is a better word, the way you think about how you might be able to tackle this barrier, if it is a barrier for you to movement, and begin to think a bit more laterally about the options you already have at your disposal or the opportunities you can already create within your lifestyle without having to, as we said in episode 1, straight away go to trying to add something new to your lifestyle. So on that note, let's get stuck into those characteristics we mentioned before, and we're going to tie together income and employment because they are, certainly from a financial point of view, they are heavily tied together. And the one thing I want to say on this is the modern fitness industry is expensive. However, movement is cheap. Okay, so we are programmed at the moment to believe that the way we should begin our interventions and the things we need to start doing straight away is purchasing and seeking out resources that cost money. It's purchasing or signing up for gym memberships. It's seeking out professional help. It's buying our own equipment and things like that, all of which are very expensive based on the way the modern fitness industry is. However, okay, if we look at more traditional forms of movement and more simplified forms of movement, a lot of them require environments that are at everyone's disposal, and a lot of them can simply be done with their own body weight. So with that being said, and on the theme of our takeaway of being aware of your options and the opportunities you can create, if finances are an issue and are a barrier for you getting started on a physical well-being based intervention, then I would challenge you to start thinking laterally about what you already have at your disposal, okay? And the forms or the modalities of movement you might be undertaking, and which ones require a financial commitment and which ones do not. For example, a lot of aerobic-based activities do not require a financial commitment. They can be done with the environments that are already at our disposal, such as our local parks, our sporting facilities, or local bike paths, all of which are free to access and can be done so with no charge. If there are other forms you'd like to tackle, such as, for example, resistance-based exercises, people straight away would jump at me and say, well, I need a gym for that. And again, I would challenge you that perhaps there are ways you can begin that venture with bodyweight based exercises and understanding different movements and how you can add complexity and challenge and stress to those movements and positions that don't require external load, but can be quite difficult and challenging with your own body weight. And I think on that theme, that's a good transition into another factor we spoke about, which was education. So you could come back at me now and say, well, Joel, how am I meant to know what what movements to do, how they can be more challenging with our body weight, how can I add additional stress. And this is where you may need to seek out some form of resource. However, you do not need to make a significant financial commitment that some would think that you need to make. Movement is a lot simpler than what it's made out to be. You do not need to have an in-depth understanding of the physical functions of the body, the physiological functions of the body, the biological goings on of the body to be able to begin movement and to do so safely. So there are some resources you can seek out, some which are free, some which are quite cheap, okay, that can help you on the way to understanding simple, basic body forms of movement that can be done and how you can progress and challenge those to get additional stress into the positions and movements you do. I'll give you one straight away, and we'll preface, it is a plug, but on our website, youthleaguecoaching.com, we have a whole page that is at-home training-based movements. All of them are body weight. None of them require external equipment. The only things they may require are things that you could find around your house, all right, such as a chair or a small object, things like that can be found around the house to just aid in the exercise or the movement. But that is a free resource on our website, youthleaguecoaching.com. Head to the tab that says at-home training, and not only will you find movements that you can be doing, but you'll find progressions and regressions for those movements. So you might find a baseline movement, such as say a squat, and you will have, if that is too easy for you, you will have 2 to 3 progressions on a way to make that harder. If that is too hard for you, you will have 2 to 3 progressions on a way you can make that easier. So that is a way you can increase your education of movement and what you could be doing very quickly that is cost effective. Okay, it doesn't then create that income barrier that we just spoke about, and we spoke about how we can get rid of before. Let's transition from there to the other 2 factors which we mentioned, which were environment and social support. Now these are a little bit more subjective, okay, and it's a little bit more personal preference as to the environment you're seeking and the degree to which you require social support to be assisted in getting started in your intervention. With regards to the environment, I think the base level and the minimum that everyone requires is a safe environment to be physically active. Now that's obviously physically safe, right? Free of hazard and risk and danger, but it's also mentally and emotionally safe as well. For some people, getting started on these movement-based interventions can be quite psychologically challenging and can make them feel quite uncomfortable and can be an environment where they feel very low on confidence. So seeking out environments where you also, as well as being risk-free and hazard-free and danger-free, you also feel comfortable, safe, and confident to be able to participate in movement is critical. Part of that environment is knowing the people that should be around you within that environment. How much social support do you need? Some may prefer to find an environment that is risk-free and has no one else around it. Some may want an environment that has plenty of other people around it who can provide positive reinforcement and can continue to support them and in a healthy way challenge them along their journey of their intervention. Again, that is, both of those factors are very much subjective, and you need to do a little bit of soul searching and internal reflection as to the environments you feel most safe in. Again, not just from a physical point of view, but also from a psychological and emotional point of view. And then also how the social side plays into that. Do you want a lot of people around? Do you want no people around? If you do want a lot of people around, what type of people do you need? Do you need people who are going to challenge and push you? Do you need people who are going to provide reinforcement throughout? Do you need people who are really knowledgeable in that space? Okay, so these are questions and reflections that you're going to have to undertake yourself. And it is with that I now hand it over to you. We have discussed here socioeconomic factors and how we can remove those as a barrier to getting started to movement and a physical wellbeing based intervention. We've batted around how you can address some of those 5 characteristics we spoke about. And we brought up our umbrella statement, which is our takeaway for today, which is to address this barrier, you need to be aware of the options you have in your lifestyle or the opportunities you can create within your current lifestyle. Thank you once again for joining us on the Movement for Beginners podcast presented by YouthLed. We are honored that you are sharing your movement journey with us, and all we ask in return is that you like and subscribe on Spotify, like and comment on YouTube, or head over to youthledcoaching.com and join our newsletter and community.